members. I will ask you to disregard my... I'll ask the committee to disregard my opening statement because I actually wrote an opening statement for another session. So I made some notes that are going to be relevant to today's session about bureaucracy and the administrative regime that actually impacts our agri-food sector's competitiveness overall. So I'll make 3 points to start things off today. One is Canada's competitiveness compared with other G20 countries right now. As it stands, taxation would be my second point, and third point will be about shrinkflation. So let's start with Canada's competitiveness. Recently, we've had the pleasure to prepare a report with the firm M&P. A document was submitted to the committee, to the clerk, in both English and French. I'm not sure if you did get a copy of that report, but it was submitted to the committee. But the abstract of the report is simply this. Canada's competitiveness is actually strong right now. Out of 20 countries, including the EU, Canada ranks number 7th within that group. So it is the number 1 country within the second tier. So there are lots of things that are going our way. I would say traceability, food security overall compared to other countries. But 3 things that came up in our report that would probably warrant some attention by the government. One, there is a tendency in Canada to use policy to build competitive advantages, to allow our farmers, processors to compete. Based on what we've seen elsewhere around the world, other countries don't necessarily use policy to build competitive advantages, because it is our belief that if you do that, it is not a competitive advantage, simply. 2, the lack of capital investment. From the public sector, it's been quite decent, to be honest, in the last several years, with in particular with the supercluster proteins industry. Canada is a good example of a supercluster that I believe is working well for our farmers and the sector, but the lack of private capital is really hurting our competitiveness overall compared to other countries around the world. And lastly, infrastructure. Our infrastructure is in dire need of investment, from ports to railroads to roads. There is a severe deficit of investment across the country, from the Maritimes where I am to BC as well. Some of our ports are ranked the worst in the world when it comes to efficiency. My second point is about taxation. Our fiscal regime in Canada is burdening our companies, burdening our farmers, and also burdening our consumers. A lot of products are taxed at the grocery store, taxed at the restaurant. I certainly would recommend this committee to look at taxation overall, from farm gate to plate. The GST holiday policy earlier this year was a good example of how fiscal policy can actually impact food affordability, when, based on our evaluation, when the GST holiday was implemented in December, it allowed for some opportunistic pricing to occur, meaning that a lot of companies raised prices to occupy that gap. And when the GST holiday ended in February, well, the GST was slapped back on higher prices. So we need to be careful with taxation, because it is a powerful tool that is actually controlled by the government. And also, one thing related to my third point, shrinkflation. Because of shrinkflation, there are more and more products being taxed. They are, a lot of products are considered as food. When they get smaller, according to CRA rules, they become snacks, and snacks are taxable. So there's a growing number of products that are being taxed at retail. But the worst part of shrinkflation, other than the fact that consumers are annoyed by the practice, I would say, is the fact that Statistics Canada's ability to truly assess inflation, I think, is is flawed. We believe that often inflation is underestimated by Statistics Canada. Because of shrinkflation, when you look at the basket of goods, you often see that quantities don't reflect exactly what's in the grocery store, for one. And based on our analysis, often Statistics Canada lags in terms of assessing the true measure of inflation. And on that, I'll stop now and allow other witnesses to testify.